I've got a really quick bind off to show you today that will work with any combination of ribbing. I've got 3 different samples here: a 1x1 rib, a 2x2 rib, and a 3x1 rib. And that's just to show you that it is worked the same way over any of these ribbings. And you can see here that it's quite stretchy. I like to use this on sweater cuffs or collars, anywhere where I really need a stretchy bind off. And this, of course, is the 2x2 rib, and my personal favorite, the 3x1 rib. I made a sweater recently that had a hem and cuffs and a collar done in a 3x1 ribbing, and I experimented with different bind offs, but I really settled on this one being the best one because of the way that it looked on top of the 3x1 ribbing, as well as how stretchy it was. This bind off is, you really work it over 2 rows, and the setup row is just purling across all the stitches on the wrong side row before you want to bind off, and the bind off is done on the right side. So you get to the end of your ribbing, you will end on after working a right side row, and you'll work the setup row, which is purl across the wrong side, and then do your sewn bind off across the right side. We are going to need a yarn needle, and I already have a ribbing sample on the needles. So I've got a simple 3x1 ribbing here, and I've just finished a right side row. And as I said, this bind off, it's really 2 rows because there's one wrong side row which we are going to just purl all the way across. No matter what ribbing you do, purl 1 row. And after we purl across this row, we'll get the bind off row set up with our yarn needle, and we'll also cut a tail. And we'll want to make sure that the tail we cut is long enough so that we don't accidentally run out of yarn during our bind off. So I'm just purling across this entire row. And now, as I mentioned, we're going to cut a tail. Let's just make a tail that's about 3 times the length of your ribbing. And we're going to thread our yarn needle. And this will be the same over, like I said, over any ribbing that you choose to do. It'll be the same steps. Purl 1 wrong side row, and then cut the tail, thread your yarn needle, and these are the steps that you're going to do. We're going to take the yarn needle and run it through the first 2 stitches purlwise and pull the yarn through, and then through the first stitch knitwise and drop that first stitch off the needle and just snug it up, and then repeat that, and that's all it is. You repeat that all the way across. Slip the yarn needle through the first 2 stitches purlwise, and then through the first stitch knitwise and pull that stitch off the needle. First 2 stitches purlwise, first stitch knitwise off the needle. Really easy to remember. 2 stitches purlwise, 1 stitch knitwise, and off. When you get to the end, so the last 2 stitches is slip the yarn needle in purlwise, first stitch knitwise and off the needle, and the very last stitch purlwise and off the needle. And that's really all there is to it. Now you've got a stretchy bind off, good for any ribbing.